I don't know how much does it cost to run a J-boat? He said, if you ask me how much it costs, he says you can't afford to run one.
Fantastic.
Once you've seen them, you'll never forget them. Once you see them, you'll never forget them. They will never occur again. They're out of this world.
The 1930s were the years when manpower was cheap, few places cheaper than on the big racing yachts of the period, yachts whose very size was awesome, yet whose mechanical gear was rudimentary, somewhat surprisingly since their owners were the fast-moving industrialists, fully appreciative of the rapid technical developments around them. Somehow their boats remained untouched, and among them sailed the King aboard Britannia, a yacht whose racing record will forever remain unchallenged. The yachts were models of grace and beauty in an age of elegance and total social inequality. Their huge crews were nothing more than hirelings, little better treated than the domestic servants of the time. They had their place and stayed within it, dancing attendance on the rich and privileged gentry, the few, the very few who could afford the pleasures of yachting on the grand scale. At the very pinnacle was the racing in the big boat class, a giant craft of 130 feet or so, whose masts and sails towered into the sky. The J Class boats were the ultimate, with overtones of the America's Cup. One of them was Velsheda. Of the 4 J's built in Britain, only one of them was designed without a thought for yachting's holy grail. Velsheda was commissioned purely for her owner's pleasure. Post-war, the crippling expense removed the J's from yachting, presumably forever. All 6 American J's were broken up, and for 40 years the remaining British boats fared little better, their keelless, mastless hulks condemned for houseboat use, and then abandoned with aims to carve them up for scrap, or merely left to rot. Until, that is, a very different approach was taken by one man, one whose ideal was to restore Velsheda to her former glory, and whose energy and enthusiasm broke down the barriers of impossibility. Terry Brabant tackled the problem with a totally unclouded mind. He knew nothing of boat building, but his practical nature and ability were to carve through the jungle of ignorance and rejection by traditionalists. Terry, just what are you doing with this key?
Putting it up there, then concreting.
Well, that's a strange way to go about it, isn't it?
Well, no. It costs too much money to have a moulded keel made up, and this is the easiest way of doing it. Got a boat slip, we'd have a difficulty in lifting it. So we thought we'd prefabricate the keel. We'd put 50 ton of lead in it, and then use the rest of the ballast inside the boat, which is in the water.
50 ton of lead finds a little bit of finding, don't they?
Oh, it's available.
But it's an awful lot of money to put into a boat, isn't it? 50 tons of lead? It's an awful lot. Terry, whatever decided you to embark on this project in the first place?
Well, I'd come down the yard here one day and happened to see this boat lying here, and rather took a fancy to it, made some inquiries, and it all started from there.
But you've never owned a sailing boat before, have you?
No, but I always thought that if I did want a sailing boat, I'd have something like this. And this seemed the ideal thing.
But it must have taken a lot of work to get it to the stage you have now, because I remember seeing her when she'd got no deck and no insides at all.
Well, that was 4 years ago. It was over 4 years ago, naturally, right? Well, it would near enough be 4 years to the day when I purchased it, but it goes down the slip again. So it's 4 years' work.
But not just you alone, surely?
No, me and 3 other men.
But this must be very much a labour of love, and I mean an enormous amount of expense going into it.
Well, yes, there's quite a bit of money gone into it, and you can say labour of love. I mean, the shipbuilder, he's in love with the boat, and virtually everyone else that comes and worked on the boat has been the same, except for a few.
But it's a huge project. I mean, a boat, what, 130 feet long?
128 foot.
Well, this is way beyond the dreams of anybody else. What made you do it, really?
Well, just determination, I suppose, feeling that it needed doing, somebody had to do it, and everybody telling them that it couldn't be done.
When they said it couldn't be done, now you proved them wrong.
I proved them wrong. There's a lot of people thought I was going to fall fat on my face, and there's a lot of them wanted me to, but no, I haven't done it. The boat is now nearly completed, and it will be completed in 50 years, from 50 years to the day it was first launched.
And you are going to launch it on the anniversary?
Down on the anniversary.
How much of the original boat is there here, Terry?
Well, very little in actual fact. Most of the frames are original. The top side plates are original, but mainly all the stuff underneath has all been replated. The deck is new. The hatches, they were in terrible state, but they've been rebuilt as well. I suppose that's about it. It was just a shell, derelict hull.
Chris Peterson was the boat builder for the reconstruction.
Basically, we worked from a single page out of the Yachting Monthly of 1933, which had a plan view of Velsheda, which was about 4 inches long, and it gave a general layout of cabins, bathrooms, saloon area, and basically that was it. We traced the bulkhead positions from marks left on the steel beams where it had been painted round over the years. The steel frames were in for the floor, but of course there was no floor. That all had to be put in. Once the bulkhead was in, it was relatively easy to work out from there because you had all your squares and levels to work from.
But reconstructing a boat like this, you really got to know what it looked like, rather more than that.
From photographs, Terry used to bring down the photographs and magnifying glasses, and we used to study them in the morning and sort of go over the whole thing, work out where everything went, measure, mark out on the bulkheads, and sort of gradually work through one cabin at a time and get the general layout with mock-ups before we actually put anything permanent in.
But with a steel hull this old, there must have been some of it that was rotten.
Oh yes, about 2/3 of it. She's been completely replated from the waterline down.
And that was where some of the problems occurred. The early welders were bad. They set fire to the new deck planking, and much of their work had to be redone. Eventually, however, the basic work was complete, and then came one of the biggest problems, preparing for the 25th of June, the 50th anniversary of her original launch, the day that Terry Brabant planned to refloat the recreated Velsheda. The slipway was last used to haul her up some 10 years before. The rails were buried in the mud and no one knew whether the cradle would run down. The clearance was a messy business.
You never had a hard time with that one, did you? Definitely game for that.
Go back, come down this, cut this side of it now and do that way.
It took a fair amount of paint to make Velsheda gleam again, but gleam she did on her relaunch day, and now there's just the final gallons of anti-fouling to apply. The check cables on the slipway carriage are coupled up. You can't let a boat like this, weighing 140 tons, run down by itself. Neither can you let an occasion like this pass unnoticed. There has to be some ceremony to mark the rebirth of one of the most elegant racing yachts of yesteryear.
Get up there. Rename it then. Come on, 50 years in, crash her in.
That's not what you say.
What do you say then?
I don't know. I've never done this before.
Well, don't worry about it. Just get up there and smash the ball.
Nobody has for 50 years.
They're polishing the ladder.
Just in case you slip. Yeah, the only problem is you've got to climb through the side there. And that's it. Put the ladder on the side. That's it, yeah.
50 years hence, you're back in the water again. Good luck.
Where's the ladder?
Get the foot out.
Good luck.
Hey, you ain't chipped his pint. Oh!
Bring it, Russ, in here. Get the foot out.
When the laughing stops, the worrying begins. The launching cradle is almost as old as Velsheda and may not last the 100 yards to the water. Everyone is aware of the danger, but no one could bear the thought of Velsheda toppling over at this stage of her life. It's utter relief as the cradle reaches the water. Now she waits for the tide to rise. Meanwhile, at Cowes, a new mast has been created, and with it, more problems yet.
This is the first mast that I've ever had to escort. I've obviously escorted a lot of things in the past, but never a mast before. The real problem is going to be turning it when it comes out from the works. It'll go straight across the road there. The problem's going to be turning it round to come down straight across the road at the bottom. It's so long.
But 8 inches.
They're all right back here, or they touch?
Hit them, said. Haven't got any brake on it.
Yeah, me.
That's pretty good now, George.
Yeah, I don't know why he stopped.
The problem is to get 169 feet of steel mast weighing 3.5 tons to the waterside without damaging its fragile structure.
We'll be at the library in a minute, Sean.
You want to be the other side now, because it's going to run away with you.
That side.
Run down the hill.
So we've got a steering then.
It's all handwork
come up
from
here,
now on.
Sean, ready down
I'm
for
going
the
to lower
brake.
it down, roll it out.
Hey? That's been better where you were. Full back. I'm the only one who got to run then. He was always with Gary Grant when he did it through Spain.
Check it back. Sit around. Oh, I'm pushing too.
Yeah. Somebody at the other end got anchored. Well, he said it was going to come easy.
Back on the side of the river Itchen, Velsheda remains stuck fast in her cradle. The tug is called and the hawse are passed. Throughout the 2-hour stand of high water, the pull is on, and yet Velsheda fails to move. The anxiety is written on the divers' faces. They've been down to see the keel. The tide began to ebb and all seemed lost when, with a final heave, she slipped her manacles and floated clear. sails, the mast has to be turned through a right angle to get it on its way. And the only place to do it is above the houses. It's taken 5 hours' work to get this far.
He's lined up with a rope. We don't want to get pinned in on the curve. We've got no method of it. All right, Joe? Stay there.
On board Velsheda, under tow, the party has begun in earnest. Quite predictably, the impossible has happened.
Terry, how do you feel about this today?
Absolutely out of the world.
Did you ever have any doubts about it?
No,
Even when it looks stuck?
you have to have faith, don't you?
Well, you said...
She was going to go down. That's a typical woman. She was either going to play up or she was going to go down. She wanted to go in the water, and that was the end of it.
And now you're happy.
Oh. What can I say? We launched it when we said we was. I predicted June 25th, 4 years ago. She's back in the water. And they're the best crew I've ever had. I couldn't want it better, please, folks. A load of but the best crew you're ever going to get.
That's good, isn't it?
With a little help from the law, the mast is underway as well. The marriage of the two is imminent. It's taken 8 hours to get this far, and throughout it all, one man has remained unruffled. Harry Spencer, whose firm built this huge mast, displays as much emotion as Nelson on his column.
Well done. What's all for alarm and despondency? Keep pushing and clear yourself. We didn't hit it, did we? Off you go.
Stepping the mast was a 10-minute job. The crane driver's expertise helped a lot.
Sharp knife and clear conscience.
What?
From the onset, Terry Braben was determined that Velsheda should be as near as possible the same as she had been in her heyday. The problems now become even more apparent. The pure physicality of size and a gap of 40 years in experience to produce the missing parts. Back in 1933, when Velsheda first hit the water, her sails were made in cows by Ratsies from the finest Egyptian cotton, all hand-sewn by an army of sailmakers working long hours. That's one thing that will not be repeated in this day and age. The mainsail in cotton weighed 1.5 tons. Today's technological progress will reduce this by more than half. Horizon's Simon Werner works with synthetic cloth.
The biggest problem is the sheer size of the sail, finding somewhere big enough to build it.
But there are problems, technical problems, in actually making a sail like this, surely, that you haven't met before.
That's right, and obviously we hope we've achieved the right answer. We shan't find out, of course, till we go sailing.
There's a lot of hand sewing, presumably, in a sail like this.
The corners, of course, the clue and tack corner will all be hand sewn, so will the reef rings. They will have to be specially made for the job.
And things like the headboard, well, you don't go and buy those on the shelf, do you?
No, that's all going to be custom made. But we're cheating a little bit there, where it'll be made out of aluminium, and the outside plates will be screwed through.
So it's quite an engineering job as well as a sailmaking job.
Quite an engineering, yes, that's right.
With a mast as tall as a 14-storey block of flats, there must be an enormous amount of stretch in the sailcloth. Just how much stretch in this place?
On the luff length, we're allowing 4 to 5 feet for stretch.
That's quite a lot. What about on the leech?
About 2 feet.
So you had to really lay out a plan with that stretch in mind?
I've had to draw the sail out on paper, yes, as well as use a computer to get the panel lengths.
Well, that's something quite new. But are you going to be able to stretch it out and lay it out completely before it goes up the mast?
No, we shall be laying it out in sections again.
Of course, that was a thing that was a case in the past. They were never able to see a sail fully made.
That's the only thing we've got on our side, is the fact that we have the same problems as they had then.
So historically, you're perfect.
I hope so.
Velsheda was built for the chairman of Woolworths, Bill Stevenson, and the name came from the first letters of the names of his 3 daughters, Velma, Sheila, and Daphne. Throughout her short racing life, just 7 seasons, she was crewed totally by professionals, a breed of men apart, mainly fishermen, who dropped everything to spend the summer devoting their skills and energies to earning their living on the racing craft. Their basic wage, about £3.10 a week, and at the end of the season, a bonus from the prize money. A true labour of love. For the most part, their skills died with them. Velsheda's crew today, largely a bunch of happy amateurs, have everything to learn. There's only a handful of people about who raced the J's and know how to sail them in a breeze and keep the rig from tumbling in the sea. After all, the mainsail alone is 4,500 square feet. The learning curve is steep. The first thing they learn is that it's a whole lot of hard work. In charge of the project is skipper Phil Wade. What is so different about this boat to any other big boat? Because you've been on 100-footers, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been on bigger than 100-foot, but nothing with a mast anywhere near as big as this. The last boat I was on was 100-foot. The total sail area was only about 200 square feet bigger than just the mainsail alone of this boat, so it's much bigger.
This is a boat without a great deal of those winches and things. I mean, the winches on here are relatively small compared with the boat. It's all blocks and tackles, isn't it?
It's all block and tackle. We do have a few winches which we're still testing to see whether they're going to take the place of blocks and tackles, but we've got the blocks and tackles there, and we used them yesterday and found that they were just as good as the winches, and in a lot of cases what we call Norwegian steam or muscle is faster than winches anyway.
But I mean, if this were a racing boat in today's era, it wouldn't be rigged in this way, would it?
No, you'd have probably very high-powered winches. The cost would be phenomenal.
But it is a very different setup from most boats.
Yes, it is. Everything is probably double the size of the biggest boat sailing in the Southampton, and instead of being one sheet, there's 2 sheets with a block and tackle on one end. So yes, it is very different.
Are you finding that the crew are learning with you, or are you just one step ahead of them all the time?
I hope I'm one step ahead of them.
Coordination is important for the 24 men putting their heart into working the boat. Pure muscle is not enough. That number of professionals worked in perfect harmony. This lot will have to do the same.
Okay, out and in. When you're down, ease back in, that's good. Okay, slack off!
Hold on, don't let it go.
More slack!
What's it like then, Terry?
Fantastic.
Well, I see you've got the scarings out of you now that you're wearing the white trousers.
Oh, well, of course. Never really bothered about it. Never wanted brown trousers anyway. Don't go with the boat.
Well, how much working out do you think you're going to have to do with the boat? Because it does take a lot of time, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I think, we should have it pretty well organised now for next year, next season.
Oh, you think she's willful? Has her own way?
Oh, yeah. She just wants to sail, that's all there is to it. She behaves herself.
No one in the early days wanted to risk too much sail up, and so when it blew force 6, Velsheda was sailed with a tiny trysail, her mast towering way above it. But she still cracked along at over 9 knots. There is one man who can remember those halcyon days.
Who is this, the Prince Regent or something?
Austin O'Connor, known then to everyone as Boy, is a sprightly septuagenarian who used to steer Velsheda in races against the other big boats of her time. How does this boat feel now? Is it like it was 50 years ago?
Very much. She's a little bit, of course, it isn't a very good day, but she's very nice. She's really lovely.
But it must be very different sailing it now to what it was sailing in the heyday of the racing.
She was so lively in those days. This is heavier going, but it's the same old feel. As the young girl said to the sailor, I think.
Go back to the time when you were racing against Britannia, because you had a fairly close call with her one day, I believe.
Oh yes, our beloved King was on board, 85 on the Britannia. She was being sailed by Sir Philip Hunloke, as she always was, and we were having a great race, coming back into Cowes, finished across the squadron line. I had a short lead, a few lengths, and I had to come, we came in on the starboard tack into the anchorage where all the boats were moored, and one had to come out and make a short leg like that in order to get across the finishing line. And I had to take a calculated risk to come across on the port tack and clear the boat behind me. Well, I had plenty of room really, I had 4 or 5 legs clear, but as we came across like this, the helmsman, Sir Philip, who was a great sportsman, but a very eager one, saw us coming across, and he gave the wheel to the skipper and came down on the lee rail and went like this at me. My tender age of 26, I was very worried about it. Anyway, we went on, came about, finished across the line. I'm proud to say we won the King's Cup. But I was a little worried about his reaction to it all. When we got back on our mooring, and I was talking to the owner of my boat, who was a great sportsman and a very nice person, I said, well, Bill, I'm very sorry. I don't know what I can do. I'm not going to write a letter or apology because I have nothing to apologize about. I had plenty of room. And he, in his very dry Lancashire, humorous manner, said, well, of course, you can always emigrate, can't you?
Velsheda has many admirers, all of whom want to sail on board. Taking time off from his round-the-world race project is Peter Blake.
I'm used to sailing quite large ocean racing yachts, but this is the next sort of stage up. I think it's right at the top of the scale, and it's not till you actually get on board and go sailing that you actually realise the size, the immensity of the gear on board. I mean, it's just huge. That sail, the mainsail there, is just so vast, it's mind-boggling. One wonders how on earth when it was sailed and the times it was sailed and raced in the Solent here, how it really was handled efficiently.
Because it would have needed a big crew.
It's an enormous crew. And, I think they must have been pretty good seamen to keep the rigs in them the way they did.
John Hamilton is widely experienced in sail.
I've sailed in square riggers, I've sailed in dinghies. This is a day's sailing I shall never forget. It's quite marvellous.
Terry is thinking of entering it in the next tall ships race. How do you think Velsheda's going to fit into that?
Very well indeed. It'll be most interesting for her crew. It'll also be very, very interesting for all the other crews. And I'm thrilled to bits that she's going to enter. Really delighted.
Sailed some boats in my time, but this is positively mind-blowing. It's 45 years since anyone took a J-boat down the Solent under full sail, and this is quite phenomenal. The response of this boat, all 128 feet of it, is quite remarkable. You can understand why, in their heyday, they were so loved. What we really need now is another one. So come on, Endeavour, get out here and it could be a great battle. Terry Braben's dream is realised and Velsheda sails again, for many years it's hoped, and guarantees to give pleasure to those who sail or see her.